All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome, Rabbit here, and today we are checking out the one, the only Osprey Electronics E300. So I'm actually pretty excited for this. So not only is this look like an ASIC, kind of sound like an ASIC, it's not super bad, but it is loud. It could annoy you. You'll hear it through multiple rooms. We'll check out the decibels and stuff later on, but this is almost like a pig in makeup. So this is not an ASIC. This is in fact 3 FPGAs inside of like this L3 Plus looking case here. So this is 3 FPGAs, and also one of the bigger selling points as well, which I don't think I've ever mentioned previously, and I didn't really know about till I got hands-on with it, is ease of use. Usually with an FPGA, you need your control board and other things. I don't even know what they're called, but you need like your board to program it and everything. This has everything built within a dashboard. Everything is done within a GUI within the website, and it's just very easy to use for an FPGA miner. And there's 3 of them, and it is extremely efficient, destroys GPUs and profitability. Now, at any time during this video, if you do decide that you might want to pick one of these up, there is a very limited supply. It's not unlimited like ASICs. These are FPGAs. They're very hard to get, so keep that in mind. So there's 3 different codes down in the description. There's 3 different FPGAs from Osprey that you can get, so make sure you use the right code for the proper miner or the code won't work. So in this video, I'm going to go through a few overclock settings. It didn't come with a power supply, so I am using a 1200 watt. I am running 120 volts, so I can use my watt meter back there. So it only has a maximum of 900 watts. So keep that in mind. That's from Parallel Miner, but this is from Osprey themselves. So it didn't come with that power supply. I had to use my own little hodgepodge. It's a mess. I know it's not. I'm just using this part here for testing purposes. Then it goes on 240 volt, but you can run this thing on 120 volt. Now they did recently release get rid of the power limiter, I guess, here, so you can now hit Caspa hash rates of about 17.9 gigahash. We will look at that. We will show you some overclock settings to hit that and what to look for in case you already have one of these, and what not to go past certain temperatures and stuff. Now, for the most part, I am currently just running this at the 15.5 gigahash mark on Caspa, and over here we can see at the wall we're about 505 watts. Now I think it's on auto fan right now, but when it's cranked up to level 10, it's using about 509 watts, and then depending on the temperature it comes down. It's usually sitting around 499 to 500 watts at that 15.5. I'll go through all the fan controls and everything in a minute, and again the setup process. But yeah, this thing is fun to play with. It is awesome. The only available coins currently right now is Ethereum Classic and Caspa, but it does sound like within the next couple days here we should have the update for Radiant to drop on this. Now it sounds like Osprey makes their own bit streams, and then they hand it off to Team Red Miner, which Team Red Miner then implements the bit stream into their miner for, you know, depending on the coin. Some's a 4% dev fee, Caspa is a 10% dev key, but you are way more efficient, so it is worth it. And then vice versa. So they come in there, and then Team Red Miner implements it back to Osprey. They upload the firmware, and you have multiple coins to choose from, making it very easy. You do not have to program these things yourself. So let's actually jump into the web GUI and kind of show you what's going on with this Osprey E300. All right, so here I am inside of the web page here, the web GUI for the Osprey E300. I'm simply just going to stop the miner right quick. We're going to stop it here, and we'll run through the quick setup process. So in this case, I am mining 2 hero miners, and it's a pretty simple process here. Most of this is already here by default, but this is where you would adjust your pool. Simply add your pool IP in right here. Your Caspa web wallet, your address that you're going to mine to is then this section here. So just change this one out, put yours in, followed by a period, and then whatever worker name you want. In this case, I got Rabbit E300. This command here, it's all in here by default, is F I guess that's a dash FPGA underscore E300. This parameter actually tells it that this is an FPGA. So, maybe it's for difficulty purposes and so on. It doesn't matter, but this is just to enable the FPGA part. Now here we have our FPGA core clock. So right now I am running 650, 650, 650, just like a GPU in HiveOS or, your BAT file. You put a comma here, you're individually overclocking each FPGA in here. So normally I believe it comes at 550, and that's about 10 gigahash. Obviously it's a lot more efficient. We'll look at that later on, but I am running the 15.5 with the 650, 650, 650 core clock in each of them. Now this does HBM memory. For Casspa, you do not need that. Now here we can actually use a different menu option. Here's the menu. You can set the exact same thing up here. I didn't use this. You can still see it's defaulted to Wooly, defaulted to whatever original address was here, and then your worker ID. I'm not using this, but you can use this if it's a lot easier for you, but you can simply choose your algo. So here it is. Unlike some other ones where you got to flash the SD card, put it in, change files and stuff around, it's a simply drag and drop, click, push, click buttons and start. So here you can see Casspa or ETC hash. Now when Radiant emerges, you update your firmware and then RxD will be here. So all I got to simply do is, choose ETC, choose Casspa, choose Radiant. It is very easy to do. Then simply put in your pool, put in your wallet address, the worker name, set your FPGAs to whatever you want. Again, depending on what you're mining, you're going to want to set memory. For Casspa, Radiant will be the same thing as well. I'm assuming you don't need that memory, but for ETC, you will. Now, Osprey actually sent me out the little book, and they do have a little guide on basic settings to start with, and then from there, you can just tweak it out. Remember, just like everything else, I'll go into my status here, and you can set your core voltages and everything here, and this is your voltage lines up here. Now, just like GPUs and stuff, the lower your voltage, the more power and efficient you will become. But if you don't have enough voltage, you will see some FPGA chips kind of fall out. For Casspa in this case, it's what I'm noticing here. I do have FPGA right here. We can see FPGA 0, 1, 2, or just set it for all FPGAs. For 0 and 1, I do actually have to run 630, and I am able to run FPGA 2 at 620. Anything below, I tried them all at 620, and after about 5-10 minutes, both 0 and 1 FPGAs would go down. So for settings here, I found that again, 630 on FPGA 0 and 1 is stable, and 620 is stable on the very last third FPGA here. So that's what I got going on for overclock settings here. Once you get all those in, all you got to do is simply come into your miner here and hit that start button. Once it starts kind of ramping up, it takes about 2.5 minutes till you finally find your first share, at least for Casspa that I find, which we'll actually look at in a minute. So once I wait for it to finally say yes, we're engaging here still, you can still see it stopped. I'm waiting for a little pop-up here. Sometimes it takes a little longer than others, but just wait it out. There we go. So apply config done. Okay. Now it's running Team Red Miner. One thing I should point out as well, you also have the option between Allfather or Team Red Miner, and it has their fees and everything up top. Now we're going to go into the actual miner log. So I just want to click on it again. Here we can see it's starting to ramp up. So right now we're at 22, 43, 20. So at about 45, maybe about to hit 46, we will start seeing our first share. So I'm just going to let it sit out here until that share is found, and then we'll continue on. Okay, so here we can see the Bitstream did load successfully at, where's the time here? 22, so 45, 41. So just over 2 minutes here, actually a little bit less than 2.5 minutes. And as soon as that Bitstream loads on each FPGA, we begin finding our shares. Everything's good to go. So now it's going to take a little bit more to kind of get its hash rate and everything. So I'll let it run for a little bit and then we'll come back. All right, so it didn't take very long. Let's just kind of scroll back until we actually hit full hash rate. So this was the first one here. We can see the time of 46:13. We started loading the Bitstream at 45:40 or something. It's just starting to ramp up by the time this report went through. And then by the next report, we are at our 15.52 gigahash. That is 5.175 gigahash per FPGA, adding up for the total of 5.52. Now, again, we're just going to look at my quick settings here. On my settings, we are currently at fans of 8 and we are hanging out, which means 80% here is what our fans are at. We can do a manual mode, but we're at 631, 631, and 618. It'll bounce around back and forth, 628 and so on, but I do have it set at 630, 630, and 620. As for our fan speed adjustments, you can run it on auto or just manual mode. So manual, you can select your levels here, and here you can see the percentage of your levels. Now maybe you just want to ramp it up to level 10, let it go, and now we're running full fans. Now it's not super loud, but it can get fairly loud and annoying depending where you do have this miner. Now there is a Noctua fan upgrade, which what I'm going to get at now is you may or may not want it. If you want to run this at the 17.9 gigahash or whatever it can hit its max at, you're going to want to keep an eye on this MPS temp here. Now this MPS temp is not on the older dashboard. When this got sent out to me from Osprey, it didn't have this. I was on it, but I did get the file from them, updated it, flashed the firmware manually, and then now I have this MPS temp. And you want to keep this below 90 degrees. Once you go above that, then you'll probably fry something. So they said to make sure to keep this below 90. So if you start running this up there, so I'll adjust the settings here soon. I'm going to put my cores up to about 750 now, which is an extra 100. And I'm going to move these up to 720. And then we're going to start seeing some higher temperatures on top of higher hash rates. So step number 1 here, you're always going to want to stop your miner first. Don't adjust stuff while it's on the fly. I don't think it'll do anything while it's on the fly anyway, but you know, common practice, stop the miner. Now I'm simply going to come into here and just move all my cores up to 750. Because we are upping our cores, we're going to have to give it more voltage or they won't run. So I'm going to go into my... I'm just going to hit the start button right now. It can start loading this DAG. It's not doing anything at this point, but now I'm going to adjust this to 720 millivolts. So we're just going to change that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It takes a few tries here. I feel this part's a little bit... Okay, it worked right off the get-go. So at the time of recording, it worked totally fine, really easy first try. But sometimes I do notice that it doesn't apply, and I have to try to apply it a couple times. There was 1 or 2 times where after like 10 minutes, it didn't apply them. And then I actually had to hit the power button on the miner, on the breakout board, turn it back on, and it worked first try. Other times, only 1 or 2 might actually do its voltage change here. I just got to simply select an individual one that didn't and then apply it manually to the single FPGA. So these are things that you may witness if you happen to have this and things I am finding out. All right, so here we can see we're at 17.9 gigahash, 5.968 gigahash on each FPGA for that total of 17.9. This has been running for about 10 or 15 minutes. So if we jump into the pool, we can see we are having a hash rate here of 18.35. Now, obviously, this will fluctuate. I've seen it as high as around 26 gigahash and as low as about 12 or 13. I've been bouncing around all over the place, so I don't have any 24 6-hour averages or anything. I'm off and on and moving it around to different rooms, but we can get rough ideas here. So based on the current price, it looks like about 292 coins a day at $6.73 USD. Based on the current bad market. So that's actually pretty good, especially when GPUs are here. You know, this is obviously a lot better of a machine. Now, one thing to keep an eye on is this MPS temperature. We can see it's starting to climb higher than what it was with our other settings. As time goes by and your ambient temp and everything kind of heats up, it slowly climbs. I was getting to about 84, 85 degrees. That's why I am not running it at this setting for too long, because I don't want to hit that 90 degrees. This is your power regulator. So based on Discord DMs, the MPS temp is your power regulator, and you want this to be below 90 degrees Celsius, which is why if you move over to the Noctua fans, yes, they're quiet and silent, but you won't have the airflow to keep this thing cool. So you're probably only going to want to run this at my previous setting to at that 15.5 gigahash mark. So I'm going to actually set it back to that because I prefer that better. So here I have the spreadsheet kind of put together with the core clocks I have tested so far. So with our cores of 650, cores of 750, and then 550. With all our memory is at 1,000 in these because we're not using memory for Caspa. core millivolts. So this is our voltage on our cores. Again, FPGA 0 and 1 is 630. FPGA 2 is down to 620. I got 720 on all three when it comes to the high overclock. They hit that high 17.91 gigahash. And then a low of 600 on the 550, and I couldn't get it below 600. I was going to try 580. In the book it says 600 is the lowest, so I must not let you go below that. So we're at 600 here, and the memory voltage is all at 1000 as well. That's also the low end for the memory. So for our medium efficiency and where I am currently running this miner, I'm at 505 watts at the wall, 15.52 gigahash for 30.732 megahash per watt of power used. Our revenue on free power currently at the current price of Kaspa, $6.41, and profits after power at 11 cents per kilowatt hour. So what I would be getting is $5.08. Now we're about 50% less of Kaspa's all-time high. So if we hit those price range again, we would be a little over $10 in this case. Next one is the 750 core, 1000 memory, 720 on the millivolts here. We'll just move into the numbers. 797 watts was the power at the wall for 17.91 gigahash. Megahash to watt is lower in this case, 22.471. And our revenue is $7.39 if you had free power, or $5.21. So this is still the most profitable setting here, even though it's currently the least efficient. And by least efficient, this is still ultimately over double the efficiency of what my GPUs were. Like, again, GPUs were around, I think I was getting 7 gigahash, a little over, for like 1200 watts or something. So we're using less power, and we have over like 2.5 times the hash rate here. So extremely efficient over GPU mining Kaspa. And then in the efficient settings here, we do have 13.14 gigahash. Now for wattage here, I do have 393 to 400. This depends on fan 8 or 10. You could get away with fan 8, which is why I put both down here. And then the safe fan settings, it didn't run very hot. Obviously at these settings, low voltages, low clock speeds, and so on. So you can get away with the 8 running 393. So we do have an efficiency of 33.43 to 32.85, depending on the fan setting you use. And that is $5.43 if you had free power, and $4.40 at 11 cents per kilowatt hour. And then I will test Ethereum Classic out at a later date. And then obviously as soon as Radiant hits, we will be testing out those numbers to see how well this does. Now, remember, we are expecting ASICs to hit sometime. We have about a month and a half, 2 months until all those KS0s, KS2s, and so on hit the network. So we got some time to mine Kaspa on this. And after that, it's pretty much, or even beforehand, depending what the performance is on Radiant, it might be a straight swap over to Radiant and smash the crap out of that until ASICs or something comes live. And then I don't know if the coin plans on forking or something at that point. I haven't heard anything yet. I don't think they will. But right now, the next move for these E300s and a lot of FPGAs will be moving over to Radiant as soon as that Bitstream probably does go live. All right, so let's just take a look at some of the other FPGAs on the market other than the E300. And here are the 3 E300 models. We have the E300 right here. This is your VU35P version. The 3 FPGAs, these are the best ones. We got this new arrival, which is actually VU33Ps, and we can see this does have 3 FPGAs in it, but it's only coming in at 8.8 gigahash. They're not as higher grade of FPGAs, I guess. And then this one is your single board VU35P, which is like the E300, but this is your E100 with your single FPGA board inside of it. So use the proper code down in the description to pick one of those up if that's what you're looking for. But if we head on over to Coastal Crypto here, we can see multiple different miners. And here, one of them is the K10. I'm sure we all heard about this one when F2 Pool kind of showcased it on their pool, saying, you know, this is a top miner to buy. But this is for Kaspa. It's an FPGA 30 gigahash at 1700 watts. Now we've seen the E300 pull 17.91 at about 971. So 2 E300s is actually cheaper than the K10 and coming out at about 35.82 gigahash at slightly under 1500 watts. So more hash rate and less power the E300s have over the K10. So obviously this is a big X. No thanks. Don't want a K10. All right, so here we do have the Multi-Miner M2, and it's about $3,000, and we can see it has support for all these coins. Now we got to keep in mind this is also an FPGA. It's not so user-friendly. You got to edit the files. You know, you got to kind of know what you're doing here in order to even run this thing. And then I believe Hobbyist Miner actually just got one of these, and it wasn't really getting the hash rate that he was hoping it was supposed to get. So I think it's just 8 gigahash version at 1,000 watts, 8 gigahash, 1,000 watts. Again, we are destroying Kaspa with the E300 over this miner. Now, what makes this miner kind of stand out is the fact that it has these other coins to support. The E300, they're all FPGAs. Now, it's not supported yet, but Osprey plans on dropping a sweep of multiple coins available, and because it's easy to use within their dashboard, simply clicking on the coin you want to mine, you know, it's gonna most likely blow this thing away in all of these coins eventually. But right now, all I know that's right around the corner is Radiant. All right, so we're gonna get a quick decibel reading of this miner, me talking plus the miner. We're hanging out about 78, 79 decibels. I'm gonna shut up and put this kind of beside the fan. So we can see about 81 decibels on this miner. It is not quiet. Now, I don't really know how to compare it. If you have heard the Jazzminer X41U, this is a little bit quieter, but the Jazzminer is a lot more annoying because it is, in fact, a higher pitch screen. This has a little more of a lower volume, so it might travel through walls and stuff a little more. And actually, the fan just picked up the 10, I think, so we're going to check it one more time. So we can see we hit about 82 there, right when it ramped down. Now when this thing is in full bore 10, I think it's actually slightly quieter than when it's at like level 9 or 8, because it has a slight hum, a little lower pitch. So again, you'll notice that sound a lot more than when it's really ramped up. But in terms of screaming, it's not as loud as a Jazzminer, but it's not for the home miner to throw in your apartment buildings. Definitely your neighbors are going to want to get mad at you. All right, guys, so that pretty much does wrap up this video. We're going to go through a couple pros and cons here, but for the most part, I apologize for this thing screaming away in the background the entire time. But at the same time, this is a mining channel. This stuff is expected. Anyway, so a couple pros here is obviously ease of use. On top of being way efficient than a GPU for the coins that it mines, you're obviously buying this thing for the current supported coins, plus potential future coins that this thing will support. But the other big selling point of this miner, and some of you might think the price may be up there, FPGAs in general are expensive to get. So this is actually 3 of them. But ease of use, I think the big thing with this thing also is it's so easy to use. Any GPU miner can put this thing, turn it on, get it going, and start mining and not have to worry about programming an actual FPGA from scratch and stuff. So I think those are major sellers for this miner. Now, I'm not saying go out and buy this one. We don't know really what's going on with the future of all these coins. If ASICs will hit, if they're fork, and all sorts of things. But, you know, if you are in the market, you've been looking to try to get FPGAs. I know a lot of you GPU miners out there have been trying to get your hands on FPGAs, and this thing is perfect for you. Now, there you go. Now, the cons is obviously Kaspa is going to be gone to ASICs pretty soon. We only got about a month and a half, 2 months left, depending on how many of those sell, but the hash rate is going to explode. Next up, we do have Radiant. We don't know if any of these coins are going to end up forking. Now, Nexa is also on the list of turning to FPGA sometime this year, so it'll be interesting to see when that happens. They have a fork coming up. It's in their white paper. Look it up. It's happening. Then after that, it's going to be ASIC as well. But between swapping between all these coins over the next year or two, by the time the bull run hits, this thing in theory should cover its costs if you're an ROI person. Right now, you know, it might be looking over a year, 2 years, but come bull run time, if you're holding on to those coins or something, it's most likely going to cover cover its cost. So less than a 2-year ROI. Again, I don't know. I'm just speculating here. Do your own research. The other con is obviously the noise level. You're not going to want to put this next to your kids or any of their rooms. You're going to want it in a mining shed, or if your basement is pretty noise resistant. Not for apartments. It's limited to whoever can use it. You can use it on 120 volt, which I have here, and as well, obviously 240 volt, depending on the power supply you use. All the specs are based on your power supply, not your machine itself, because that's where the power is coming from. So remember, this is a 1200 watt server PSU from Parallel Miner, 900 watts on 120 volt, 1200 watts if on 240 volt. And the last thing, again, if noise was the issue, there is the Noctua industrial fans. Now I actually have some of the Noctua industrial fans, but they don't fit in the actual slot here. So you do need a little converter from the fans that the Noctuas use to this. So I think they're supposed to be sending me out that, and then I will be trying that. But the downfall of the Noctua fans is I do not think, unless you have this thing outside in the winter time, it is summer here right now, so I can't even do that in Canada, but unless you have nice cold ambient temps, you're not going to be moving as much airflow with those Noctua fans. So you are not going to be able to boost it to that 17 gigahash, because it will overheat, melt something, or whatever goes on when this thing starts smoking hot. So keep that in mind. You're probably going to have to run it at that 15 gigahash mark. And again, it also comes down to the area you live in. If you live in a desert, you might only be able to get away with, say, the 13 gigahash point with those Noctua fans. It all depends on the person and where you are, and location, geographical, weather, all sorts of crazy stuff like that. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys did enjoy this video on the E300. There definitely will be more to come. I will see you on the next one. Rabbit out.